Well, hey, everybody. It is so good to be here. As Dan said, my name is Jackie Glass. Usually on Sundays, you can find me in the lobby helping to welcome in all our new guests, or you can find me in the lobby with my husband rallying our 4 kids, making sure they don't cause some disruption. I brought a picture of our family here. So it's my husband, John. We have 4 kids ranging in ages from 6th grade to 3 years old. And hey, if you're wondering how to get a 3-year-old to smile for a picture, yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea. Clearly, I have no idea. Like, I know the trick of gummy bears in your pocket and bribery of ice cream afterwards, but is it really a family picture if not everybody is faking it? You know, it really isn't. Well, it's for this reason and for so many other reasons that our family has been incredibly grateful for this series, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Family. And you don't have to have kids to be learning some key truths when it comes to replacing dysfunction with function in our relationships. As Dan said, the last couple of weeks, we have talked about trust. And we have talked about conflict and communication. And so today, on Mother's Day, we are hitting another common key dysfunction when it comes to our family. The topic for today is around commitment. Lack of commitment. That's right, lack of commitment. And as you hear the word commitment, you and I both know this, is that commitments, they can be small, they can be big, they can be casual, they can be concrete. But there's something that's common about every single commitment, is that it is a decision made in the present to determine the future you long for. It's a decision you make in the present to determine a future you long for. I love this definition of commitment. It says this, it says, commitment means saying you will do what you said you were going to do long after the mood you said it in left you. Ooh, I feel it up here too. We do that because it resonates with us, right? It resonates with us because we often get tripped up in 2 common places when it comes to commitment. I mean, we get tripped up a lot of places when it comes to making and breaking commitments and keeping them, but 2 common ones I want to highlight today. The first one is in over-commitments. That's right, in over-commitments. This is allocating more time and attention than we humanly have capacity for. We can do this at work, we can do this with our kids' sports, we can do this through volunteering and projects. It's basically this. It's saying yes to the wrong things and therefore saying no to the right people. It's saying yes to the wrong things and therefore saying no to the wrong people. First place we tend to get tripped up is in over-commitments. Now, second place that we tend to get tripped up, and this is a fill in the blank, so I need your help here, is we hear that people have commitment issues. That's right. We hear that people have commitment issues, and this is usually rooted in some type of fear that you are either going to be abandoned by someone or that you have trouble making a commitment to someone, that there's going to be a lack of freedom that you will not have if you make this commitment. Now, I want to be honest with you about my current commitment issues. So you saw a picture of my family. There's 6 of us. I am the only holdout of us not having a dog. Like me. Like mom of the year, right here, mom of the year. Our children have never had a dog. And while you guys all walk these like adorable, furry, fluffy things, all I can think of is fluffy freedom threat. Like, just fluffy freedom threat. Like I love to travel, and I don't want to be, like, tied to my house every couple hours to do this. Caroline and Sergio are, like, laughing in the front. They're our neighbors. Our oldest literally walks their dog 5 times a week because we don't have a dog. And true, right? Absolutely true. Yeah, true. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, I'll charge you. Yeah. So there's another couple in our church, Marcy and Rich Damiani. Many of you guys know them, the sweetest couple in the whole world. And they let our family know that there were these golden retriever puppies that were available. And Marcy, again, the kindest heart, but she had the audacity to send this picture to my husband. I know. My family already named her Ginger Glass. It's like got this beautiful ring to it. And here's me. This is what I said. I look at my family and I said, I can't commit. I can't commit. Maybe in a year. And when it comes to commitments within our families, we know that it goes much deeper than choosing if we have fluffy freedom threats or not. Because commitments have high stakes attached to it. And so today we are going to dig deep and we are going to learn what it means to have healthy commitments and how decisions in the present truly create the future we long for. If there's one thing you take away from today, I want you to take this away. When it comes to our relationships, commitment is the key to our legacy. Commitment is the key to our legacy. There's this beautiful story in the Bible about a family who makes two commitments. They put two stakes in the ground, and it determines the legacy of their family. Now, last week when John was up here, he said that communication is a skill. And so for today's efforts, I want us to think of this. If communication is a skill, then commitment is a stake. Now, I just said steak, and a lot of you guys got really hungry. There's steak and there's steak. There's like steak on the grill, and then there's steak in the ground. So sorry to disappoint you, but today we're talking about stakes in the ground. Because when it comes to commitment, there's something that is grounding about them. There is something that anchors us to create what we long for. And we will see in this beautiful story in the Bible that the two stakes this family puts in the ground determines their legacy. This story is found in the book of Ruth. The Bible is made up of two parts, the Old Testament and the New Testament. And the Old Testament chronicles the life of the Israelites, God's chosen people. And that is where we encounter this story in the book of Ruth. So let's dive in. Ruth 1. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem, take note of this, Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Abimelech, his wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there. Now, a little bit of a background. There was a famine in the town of what town again? Bethlehem, that's right. In the town of Bethlehem, there was a shortage of food and supplies. Basically, Woodman's was still not open. Can I get an amen? Yeah, basically, Woodman's was still not open. And so this family is displaced, and they travel to this foreign land, the land of Moab. And then the unthinkable happens. Tragedy strikes. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Verse 3. Now, Abimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah. This is not Oprah, Orpah, and the other Ruth. After they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. So here is Naomi, this widowed woman. She has not only lost her husband, but she has lost both of her sons. She is left with 2 daughters-in-law from a foreign country, and she has no legacy in the picture. She has no more sons to give to these daughters to continue on in her legacy. Grief and loss and clearly unexpected circumstances are rocking this woman's world. So let's take a quick pause here, because this is really key when we talk about the topic of commitment. Is what unexpected circumstance do you find yourself in right now? Anybody in here find themselves in an unexpected circumstances? And this is where it's key, is because one of the top reasons why commitments are broken within a family is because we are shaken by unexpected circumstances. And some of these we cause, and some of these we did not choose. We would never have wanted to happen in our life. I was thinking through some of them. I know some of your stories I clearly don't know in a room this size. But I was just thinking through, for your life and mine, what are some of these common unexpected circumstances that we find ourselves in today? Perhaps leaving of a spouse, loss of a job, financial pressure, chronic illness, depression, anxiety, taking care of a sick family member, maybe just even the season of parenting, boredom, maybe feeling some purposelessness and boredom in life. Or perhaps, like Naomi and Ruth, it is unexpected grief. And what we know is that commitments are tested at the crossroads of unexpected circumstances. The commitments will be tested at the crossroads of these unexpected circumstances. And for Naomi, she finds herself there with these two daughters-in-law, and she is about to do it alone. This is what she says to them. She says, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." At this, they wept aloud. And as they stand at the very first crossroad for this family, we find our key point for commitment today, is that commitment starts with a choice. Commitment starts with a choice. These two women have heard Naomi's words, and they have a choice to make. This is what happens. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth, what? Clung. Ruth clung to her. I picture a toddler clinging to their parents' leg, begging them not to go to work. Are you adventure seekers, how you like to rock climb, like clinging to the side of a mountain for survival? Or all you new guests at Guest Central for your new mugs? Like I see you clinging on to these new mugs. And this is what we find is that Ruth makes a choice, and she picks up the first stake at the crossroad. And she makes the first commitment that anchors this family. This is what she says. She says, "Don't urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God." Choices always have two directions in them. Orpah goes one direction. You can't really blame her. I mean, this is what she feels like is going to be the best for her future and her legacy. And Ruth chooses differently. She chooses to stay with Naomi. She chooses to trust Naomi. And don't miss this. She also chooses to trust Naomi's God. Remember, Ruth was from Moab, where they worshiped different gods, but there was something magnetic. There was something different about Naomi's God that she chose to trust Naomi's God for her future. And above all that else, you know what she does in that moment? She commits to sharing in Naomi's pain. That's what she does. She doesn't know what's ahead, but she commits to sharing in Naomi's pain. And I just want to encourage you, Mission, that we see commitments and walking with people in pain alive and well in this community. We had an event on Friday night. It was called Not Alone. It was for families within our church and in our community that have really faced the unbearable when it comes to losing a child or losing a dream of becoming a parent. And we know today, as the community on Mother's Day, that today is not a neutral day, that many of us hold grief around this day. Many of us joy and celebration, and many of us today causes pain. And as I was at the event on Friday night, I was so impressed. I was so proud of the way that people have walked with people in pain. There were people who drove in because coworkers had told them about the event. There were spouses sitting together, holding each other in it. There were friends and coworkers who were all there, and they were committing to walking with people in pain. And this is what Ruth does. He says, where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. And the reason why nights like Friday night are contagious is because commitments are contagious, right? Like when we see people making and keeping commitments, it's really contagious. This is why when you're at a wedding and, you know, that song comes on where they're like, hey, all the married couples on the dance floor, and then you leave as you have left, you've been married 5 years, okay, 10 years, and the great-grandparents who have been married 68 years are still dancing on the dance floor, and the reception erupts is because commitments are contagious. This is why when we see families, parents, and kids continuing to communicate in season after season of their parenting and of their lives in different stages, it's contagious. This is when we hear of two friends named John and Tommy who have been friends since the age of 4 and plant a church, and a decade later, here we are. It's contagious when we see people making and keeping commitments. And we see this not only in Bloomingdale, but we see this in our story in Bethlehem. Naomi and Ruth's commitment contagiously catches the attention of our third main character in the story, and his name is Boaz. This is what he says. He says, "I've been told of all you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and how you left your father and mother and homeland and came to live with a people you did not know. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." Now, it's important for us to know exactly who Boaz was. Boaz was a relative on Naomi's side, and he carried with him this specific title. This title was kinsman redeemer. Can we say that together? Kinsman redeemer. That's right. What it meant that a relative had the opportunity to rescue another relative who was in serious distress. What that meant was that Boaz could purchase a piece of Naomi's land and then give him the opportunity to marry Ruth and create a legacy. And so Boaz, here's what he does. He takes up the second stake, the second commitment we find in this book. And we find this, that commitments are a choice, but commitments are a choice for a purpose. Commitments are a choice for a purpose. And Boaz decides he will do it for the purposes of God. He says this. He comes and he marries Ruth, and he says, "As surely as the Lord lives, I will do it. As surely as the Lord lives, I will do it." I mean, he does this for the purposes of God, not for his own selfish gain or for his own selfish ways. I mean, what if we were people who made commitments for God's purposes? I mean, when you look at Boaz, he doesn't say, "I'm going to do this because she's beautiful. I'm going to do this because she's talented. I'm going to do this because she's figured out how to curb her spending on Amazon." I mean, he doesn't say that. I know. I get a little clap. Thank you. I appreciate that. He says this, "As surely as the Lord lives, I will do this." And guess what? Boaz gets to create a legacy of a lifetime. Boaz gets to create a legacy of a lifetime. Now, if I had my way right now, I would have glitter just like fall from the sky. I clearly don't have my way around here. I would not be invited back. But this is what I want you to know, is that this is where Scripture is about to get real and really come alive, okay? So just, if you're like an emoji person, you know that brain emoji that's like, okay? So just lean in. Here we go. Boaz marries Ruth and gets to create a legacy of a lifetime. So Boaz and Ruth, they have a son. And that son has a son, and that son has a son. And you know who that son was? King David. That son was King David. And if you know about King David, or if this is the first time you're hearing about King David, here's the really good news, is that King David is in the genealogy of Jesus, our Messiah. King David is in the genealogy of Jesus. And in the most unusual and uncommon plot, this woman from Moab named Ruth gets to be the great-grandmother of King David and fall in the line of King Jesus. Often we miss out on the genealogies in Scripture because we cannot pronounce the names. We wonder if historically it even matters, but it greatly matters. I want you to take a look at this. So in Matthew 1, we see the genealogy of Jesus. If you zone in on verse 5, it says, Boaz, the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth, Obed, the father of Jesse, and Jesse, the father of King David. And then it goes generation after generation after generation after generation till we get to verse 16. And Jacob, the father of Joseph, and Mary, and the husband of Mary, and Mary was the mother of Jesus, who was called the Messiah. There were 30 generations from Ruth to Jesus. Did you catch that? 30 generations from Ruth to Jesus. And we see what God did in Bethlehem. Can you imagine what God's purposes are for us here in Bloomingdale? Can you imagine if we were known as people who kept our commitments? What would that do for our friendships, for our relationships, for our marriages, for our family? I mean, this question, it keeps me up at night. what's to come 30 generations from now because of the commitments I keep today? What's to come 30 generations for you for the commitments you keep today? And so if we know that commitments are a key to our legacy, we know that they're hard to keep, we know that we often trip up, what can we do? How can we apply this to us? Three quick things and then we'll close. First thing is we need to decrease our overcommitments. We need to decrease our overcommitments. We need to cancel what's unnecessary and we need to commit to the necessary. We need to take assessment of our time and of our talents. Your phone is a really good test of this. If you look at your calendar on your phone, is your time aligning with the people that matter the most to you? The Bible's really clear about this. James 5:12, I love this. It says, all you need to do is say a simple yes or no. All you need to do is say a simple yes or no. Every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to someone else. So we're going to decrease our overcommitments. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to address our commitment issues. We're going to address our commitment issues. Now, we talked about this early on, this fear that comes around when it surfaces for commitment. And I just want you to know this is a shame-free zone in here. Some of us have been given a legacy that we would never have picked. Some of us feel like we would never choose to be in the situation we are. Some of us have made choices that have affected others. And maybe as you've been looking at this steak today, instead for you, it's been like a broken baton that you were handed. And I just want to encourage you today that your story doesn't end there. And there are ways for all of us that we have learned in this to cope. We've learned to help numb some of our pain. And so wherever you find yourself when it comes to this, we want you to know there's great hope. There's fresh start for you today. You are here, like gathering at church on a Sunday. There is something alive and well in your soul of how you want to grow and repair and be healed. And so I want to encourage you in that. Two things we can do is we can lean into community and we can seek out counsel. Lean into community and seek out counsel. For the women in the house, we have a women's breakfast coming up on May 22nd. It's a Saturday. There's more information all at Guest Central. I would invite you, pull out your phone right now, mark that date. Don't do this alone. Naomi was planning on doing this alone. Don't do this alone. Build great friendships. Men, your breakfast was yesterday, so you're a little bit of a day late, but I'm sure we will have another one soon for the men in the house. But again, lean into community. And secondly, seek out counsel. We've said this almost every week in this series, is that there is incredible counsel, incredible counselors who are really here to provide you safe space to help you, to help work through these things. But there's a fresh hope and fresh healing in that for you today. And so this is what we're going to do: decrease our overcommitments, address our commitment issues, and finally, we're going to commit our ways. We're going to commit our ways. We can't have a talk like this without really giving you an opportunity to put a stake in the ground to commit your ways. And my guess is that as I've been talking, there has probably been one name that has surfaced in your head, maybe more than one, but maybe one name. Maybe it's been a spouse, maybe it's been a friend, maybe it's been a child, maybe it's been a parent, where you could fill out this sentence. You could say this: I commit to you, fill in their name, for the purposes of God. I commit to you for the purposes of God. And can you imagine what God would do with that and how he would truly bless that? You could text that to somebody today. You could write them a card and a note, take a picture of this and send it to them. But what would it be if each of us did this? I commit to you for the purposes of God. Well, we're going to close today with a song. I've asked the band to come back up. This is actually a song of blessing. Maybe you've heard this song before. It's actually called The Blessing. And this was my hope, is that as I was going through this, I was feeling the weight of what commitments feel like. And I was like, yeah, like commitments are a choice and they're for a purpose. But in the family of God, we get something else when it comes to commitments. Our commitments can be infused with the blessing of God. We don't have to do this alone. And throughout Scripture, we see that God desires to pour his blessing, his favor on us, not only for us, but for generations and generations and generations and generations. Verse Psalm 37 says this, commit your ways to the Lord and trust in him. And so as the band prepares to play, I want to talk to two groups of people in the room. First group of people, perhaps you have never made a commitment to Jesus. Maybe it's your first time hearing about him. Maybe you have been coming around for a while. But today, the glitter went off. Maybe the glitter just went off. And you said, wait, I can be a part of God's family. I can be a new son. I can be a new daughter to the one true living God, the same God of Ruth and Naomi and Boaz. He's real. Jesus, he has died for your sin and your shame. And today, you can create a legacy of faith. Today's the day. Today's your invitation for you. Simple sentence says this, I commit to you, Jesus, for your purposes. I commit to you, Jesus, for your purposes. My mom did this decades ago, and it changed the trajectory for our family. We just saw a mother and daughter get baptized together, changing their legacy forever. And so today, I invite you that you can be part of God's family. I commit to you, Jesus, for your purposes.